Really, really.
Mr. Grant.
Well, two of us
Are
are.
you prepared?
I am not. It's me. When am I ever prepared?
I know. That's so sad.
I
All right,
try to be.
let's start off like this.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Untitled Car Project. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Welcome to show 60.
I miss you guys.
Missed you, man. How's it going? Good to see you.
Pretty good.
Really, show 60?
It is really show 60.
Wow.
Isn't that
Pretty
crazy?
freaking cool.
Yeah.
So, on that note, let's see. What are we going to talk about today?
Cars. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
I think that'd be good.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
I like that.
Let's talk about cars and how to do things to make them more fun.
We're going to talk about project cars. We're going to do some updates.
Yeah.
Updates.
We are going to touch on the ZR1X because that seems to be a hot topic. Even though it's not necessarily a project car, we're going to bring it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to make it fit.
Somebody's gonna make it into a project at some point.
At some point, you are correct.
I've got a lot to say about that and the ZR1.
We're going to talk about autocross, and we're going to talk some critical thinking,
Yes.
and I'll tell you how that fits in.
I like it.
So in the meantime, Grant's going to get a joke ready because that's his part of the
Please tell me you're ready.
We're going to share the podcast with your friends and family, aren't you?
Please.
Yes.
Aren't you? You guys?
I always do.
Now, if our listeners would do that, we'd have more people listening to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great if you guys would share it with your friends. Hit like, follow. Hit us up on Messenger or email at untitledcarproject@gmail.com. Want to let you know we got merch out there. We got shirts. We got sweatshirts. Haven't done any hats yet. I don't know if I
They've
will.
been requested.
Have they?
I think so.
All right. Well, I can also do a zippered hoodie. I had somebody request a zippered hoodie, so I did a special order.
Wow.
They are a little more expensive, about another $5. We'll get it covered.
How much is a sweatshirt?
$35.
So $40.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, that's pretty
Yeah.
cheap for a pretty decent sweatshirt. They're actually good quality.
Yeah. And we're not making a dime on these.
Nope.
We are just trying to get our names out there.
Exactly. Just covering it, getting it out there. Yeah. T-shirts are $25. Sweatshirts are $35. A zipper for $40. Yeah. Maybe we'll do some other stuff here and there. You ready with a joke, mister?
I had one originally. Here's another one that I found. I thought was interesting, but probably not. I'm probably going to get Rob upset.
Good
Okay.
Lord.
So, scientists just discovered a fossilized dinosaur fart.
Fossilized dinosaur fart?
Yeah, can you believe that? They said it's real blast from the past.
That's awesome. I'll take it. That was actually pretty good. You didn't even mess it up.
I know, that's one in a row.
Yeah.
Good job, buddy.
Wow. I am impressed. So we had some time off.
Yeah.
I think that was it was well needed. I've been so busy, and I really wanted to get out and do some car stuff and some racing and not have to think podcast and all that. And work has been incredibly busy.
Yeah, it's
You went
summer.
on vacation, right?
I mean,
a little bit. Racing vacation.
racing vacation. I took a few days off work
And Grant, you did
California.
a thing.
Yeah, I went to San Jose for Offkai this year.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was really fun.
What is that?
Offkai is a VTuber anime convention. And so I got to meet some people I've been only talking to online and get to meet some people I follow on YouTube and on twitch.com.
Yeah. Cool.
And I went on a 3-day vacation with the family and learned something about...
Was that down in Arizona? That one? Or?
No. This was Leavenworth.
Oh, okay.
Went to Leavenworth and we took a Tesla.
Took a Tesla.
Yeah.
Wow.
You
I
are
rode.
fired from the show.
I
Yeah.
rode in the back seat of a Tesla, and here's what I'm going to say about a Tesla: fucking awful.
I bet.
The back seat,
Which model?
3 probably.
Model 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And was this an Uber ride or what?
No,
Just somebody.
My mother-in-law has one.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you were just driving it across town, and you were sitting in the front seat, it's a nice car. It's not very well put together. You slam the door, shit falls apart, whatever. Back seat for a full-grown man, your nuts will hurt and your ass will be sweaty.
It's like riding bareback.
I don't know.
Some of your jokes don't land.
I'm just.
I think you meant horseback, but whatever.
Oh yeah, well, horseback bear. You ride with a saddle or bareback. And,
All right.
Yeah. Anyways.
I caught the euphemism, though.
Okay.
Okay. So it was not a great experience.
I would not recommend it. The truck back seat would have been far, far better.
But you've been hurting the environment.
I
How
don't
dare
care.
you, Jerry.
I don't care.
All day long.
There would have been 4 of us in that thing. I mean, there was 4 of us driving over there.
Yeah.
It would have been more comfortable in the truck.
Okay.
The bad thing was where we were going and parking.
Yeah.
I needed to be able to get
Smaller car.
under and in the space. So
I get that.
I've only ridden one. I had a Uber that was a Tesla, and whatever. I mean, I've heard other people complain about those cars, how much they asking price, for a $80,000 or $100,000 car, whatever they are.
60, 65, 70.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Brand new. I think at the 4 or 5 years ago they were even higher, right?
Yeah.
And they've come down a lot. They're not luxury. For that kind of price, it's not luxury. It's a pretty basic car. Interiors,
Well, that was the point.
and they're all the same. They haven't changed since they came out.
Well, especially the point of the Model 3 was supposed to be affordability Model 3.
Sure.
So the technology in it is kind of cool, but the
So, I
mean, it's a
the luxury
rolling
is a
computer.
little
Yeah.
missing. Yeah.
I was going to say, am I the only one who's actually driven a Model 3 then?
No,
Yeah, I've never driven.
I've
an
driven the
electric
Model 3 and the Model Y.
Okay, because I've driven the Model 3 and I was told to push it and see what I can do with it.
car. Sure.
And so I've put, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 miles on one or so, and like rough country road driving with it. And they're quick.
Yeah.
The Model 3 I drove was a single motor one, and I compared it to, in terms of acceleration, felt about the same as Liger at the time. Quicker, I think maybe a little bit, but the handling
Gotta be
wasn't
quicker.
The handling was not the same, and you could feel it in the
Yeah.
body and
Oh, and they're
heaviness.
heavy.
Doesn't surprise me. Ooh, speaking of which, I mean, we totally got sidetracked with electric fucking cars somehow.
Yeah.
But I saw a motorhome with a trailer behind it and one of the new electric Hummers on the trailer. That was the car they chose to tow
Interesting.
behind their motorhome.
So a big,
What?
heavy ass fucking electric car behind a big, heavy ass
Motorhome. Yeah.
Holy
Wow.
moly!
Yeah, well, we're talking, probably a 40-foot motorhome.
Pulling
Or
8,000
bigger.
pounds.
Well, more than that. I think
Yeah.
they're closer to 10, aren't
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought they were.
A motorhome's 10?
No,
No, the
Hummers.
Hummer.
Hummer.
Yeah, I'll look
Yeah,
it up.
I'll
look it up for
totally
weight right now.
believe that.
Yeah. Anyway, I just thought, I was looking at that going, what? That's some poor choices right there.
New Hummer EV weighs between 9,000 and 9,700 pounds.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I
10,000
knew it was
pounds.
close to 10,000 pounds. Yeah.
5 tons. Jesus Christ.
Behind a motorhome.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which probably also weighs,
oh, well, the
20
motorhome's
20,000
huge and they get, shit for gas mileage, right?
yeah.
8 on a good day downhill,
Oh, maybe.
probably
4.
averages 5, right?
Yeah.
And then throw 10,000 pounds behind it on a trailer.
On a 3,000 pound trailer.
Can you,
No, well, it was probably, I don't know, lighter
With-
than that.
with an electric
It wasn't enclosed.
electric
it was just
vehicle,
a
I know you can't, have them drag them behind.
right freewheel.
And that's because of the electric regeneration braking on that. But like on a Hummer, can you disconnect it?
So I don't know anything about them.
Because it'd be very interesting if you say, especially if you're towing an EV, you could use that as a brake system to help,
I don't think it works that way, but I like the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you had it free reigning, but like had it so.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so you could regen and load the battery.
Well, not only that, but also if you've got so much weight of an RV pulling you, you can use that to help slow you down even more.
Yeah, it pushes you. I don't think it does that. I don't think it slows you down. I mean, if you had to where you could regen into the batteries, that'd be kind of cool. But
Yeah.
Well, what I think he's
I
saying
don't think that's
is
possible.
if you hit the brakes,
Yes.
Yeah.
it turns on the regenerative braking and
Oh,
slows.
yeah.
It
that'd
acts
be
like
cool.
a
Yeah.
trailer brake, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think they've come up with that yet, but anyway,
It's
total sidetrack.
So here's another sidetrack, but still relevant.
All right.
For as long as we've been on break for, did we talk about in the last episode the last autocross we had at the Corvette and Viper Club?
No, we've been on break since then.
Okay, okay.
So we can talk about that today. We can jump right into it if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was really
Your
interesting.
car actually finished.
My car
weekend.
finished, yes. And
What
it was,
weekend was that? Do you
How
recall?
many cones did you hit?
I
He
don't know.
wasn't as cone heavy as normal. I think his highest cone count on a single run was like 4.
Yeah, but it was still consistent. It was still,
But you still hit a few, yeah.
yeah. What I learned on day one with it, for those who don't know, we had just put in the new flywheel and clutch into Liger.
What was our date on that event?
The date is, the Googles
like
are
4
telling me in a
weeks
minute.
ago.
What's
Rob, you talk.
3-4 weeks ago, I think. So
Yeah, it was a good 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, just for
Reference
reference exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. We're gonna probably have to edit this out, aren't we?
Nah. It was the 7th and 8th of June.
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, there we go.
So
There you
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, Liger has been up and running since then, and not as good as I thought she was going to do compared to the prior event.
Yeah, you were pretty hot and heavy the prior event and excited, and it did have a different clutch in it at that time, but I don't really think that had anything to do with.
I don't think so either. I think the biggest thing that happened at the last event, I feel like by the end of the day, everyone was on their A game. It did not matter how close or clean I can get with my car. I felt, especially day one, felt like once everyone got it dialed down where everyone is within a half-inch, quarter-inch of the cones and aren't hitting, it's a horsepower war then. Who can get to point A to be faster? And there was only a certain range I could be in for that. Mm-hmm. I think I did get a clean run on the first day eventually, but what it ended up taking was to go way wider than I was in the morning. In the morning, I put down some amazing fast runs, but couldn't get them clean. Mm-hmm. The afternoon, had to widen it up to get it. What I found, what was interesting, though, was the last lap, I watched my GoPro videos, saw what I did, almost did verbatim exactly what I did, including hitting cones, because I was like, I didn't care. I wanted to just see what the raw time to replicate that, to make sure it was that. And it was my slowest run under 2 seconds. I was very confused on what's going on with that. I know the tires were hot by the end of the day.
Yeah.
Again, first season on Hoosier, so I'm not used to that. Talking to our good friends Josh and Susan, they were telling us the one thing that they believe, or Susan especially believes, is with the heavier cars like the Mustangs, the Hoosiers do need to be cool. Because I was noticing even in the day two, my better times or stickiness was way better in the mornings than anything else. Mm-hmm. With Mustangs, it feels like you want to keep them cool.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it was pretty hot. It was like 85.
Yeah.
So that's pretty warm. I didn't put my hand on your tire, so I don't really know what kind of temperature you were running.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like it was. I never sprayed my tires.
Yeah.
I didn't get that kind of temperature. I felt like they were right there in the proper range. Mm-hmm. I did have dead front Hoosiers, though, that I come to find out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't have lost grip because of slimy tires.
Yeah. That was the only thing I can think of. Otherwise, I was really confused on what was, side by side. I was like, okay. Because, again, last lap was slow, also from hitting cones. But even with no cones, it still ended up being 2 seconds slower than my fastest run in the morning.
Trying to find where you finished up for the day.
20th or 21st point.
That far down? Oh, sure enough. That's 21st.
Even if it was a clean run, I think it's 61.3. I would have been like
63.2.
Yeah,
is your best. And what was your raw time?
I think the best raw time I would have got would have been like a 61.3 or 7. It would have put me like 11th or like 10th place. Overall.
8th.
Yeah.
61.3 would have got you 8th.
Yeah. So, and then with the second day, about the same. I was 20th place again. I think we also had some really good competitors there. And just looking at how the spread was for time-wise, everyone was right there.
And the course was quite fast on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say Sunday was the day with all the options, right?
Yes.
I loved how you guys set that up.
Thank you.
That was amazing.
Is Sunday a Corvette or Viper?
Corvette
day. So you did that one.
Nice. I think one of the most fun tracks that are being built are ones that are always optional and that people talk about all day. And they say, did you go left? Did you go right? What'd you do here? How'd you set up the car?
Which way is faster?
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I did it that way. You finished 11th on Sunday.
Nice.
What?
Yeah.
Overall?
Yeah.
Raw time?
Well, let's member time only.
Okay.
Yeah, not overall. And member time only.
I think non-member time ended up being...
You mean overall?
Yeah.
I can look at that.
Okay.
Maybe. Keep going.
Okay. But yeah, I will say after the new clutch setup, the acceleration is just a hair off, and like I assumed it would be, but it makes up for it for how fast she is once lagers actually get going.
Why would acceleration be off?
So the acceleration is off because I swapped from a steel flywheel, a heavier one, to a lightweight aluminum one. So it spools up faster, but on initial takeoff with that, the rotating mass isn't as heavy. So it's not as quick. Does that make sense?
That is not true. That's not how that works.
Okay.
Should be the other way.
Yeah.
Would you like to explain it then, Rob? I was always told when you swap to a lighter...
Finish 22nd overall.
When you swap to a lighter flywheel, it makes the
Spools
whole...
up quicker.
Yeah.
Everything's faster.
It should be faster to get the speed,
Yep.
but you don't have the rotating mass, so your high end or your top end wouldn't be...
And you want to explain
No,
it, Rob?
that's not.
Well,
no.
the balance wouldn't be as good, I guess.
So the extra rotating mass helps you off the line.
There we go.
Okay. So it helps that low end, the feeling of low end torque.
Yeah.
It's not really low end torque. It's just you have a rotating mass in your clutch. So when you release the clutch, you've got something to help the motor get going because you got the rotating mass. With the lighter flywheel, your engine spools quicker. So you're, instead of using your engine power to spool up your flywheel and that extra weight, it's going to transfer to your wheels instead. So it is actually faster.
Okay.
So that makes sense as to why he felt like it didn't come off the line as good.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It just takes more RPM.
But it takes less time to get to that first cone than it would have with the bigger.
Ideally, it should, yeah.
So,
And that's why you felt like once it got moving, it was quicker
yeah.
because your engine spools up faster. You're not spinning up all that extra weight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then other than that, I brought this up earlier. We had a lot of good contenders come out into the field. It
was a great day.
Yeah.
The track just turned out awesome, and everybody really had a good time. Like, yes, like you said, the options, because there was what,
7
7 different
I think there
options.
were 7 different options.
I don't know. I've heard. I mean, I set it up, and I can't even.
Yeah.
I don't know. 5 to 6 to 7 something. Different optional. You know, and probably by the time we hit the second run group, everybody had figured out where they want to go, whether it was left, right, left, whatever.
Should we clarify for listeners what an optional could mean? Because if you think of that,
Yeah, if they've never done autocross, it's worth,
So, like on some of the obstacles we'd have to go through is like, for example, a basic one is a slalom. Which way would you go on that one?
And
Well,
a slalom. So you come up to that first slalom cone, you have the option to go left or go right. And that plays into, you have to slalom from there. That plays into how you come out on the other end. So that is your choice as a driver.
yeah, you're going the in and out that same direction you chose.
Right.
The second option that you picked on there was called the bus stop, which is at the narrow row of cones that you're going through, and you have the choice to exit going left or exit going right.
Correct.
And the way you set that up made it so if you were going left, it would make it a shorter distance, but you would have to give up any speed and all speed and essentially 180 pivot around it. Whereas going right, you could keep your speed and then momentum drive it through.
Right. Did you go both directions?
That's a hard play.
With as heavy as my car was, I always went left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, most people, I think eventually everybody was going left through that. It was, I intended to... if you exit out of the bus stop to the left, I intended to pinch that a little bit with the next pivot cone to go around the turnaround. And then, like you said, if you went out to the right, you could just make a nice long arc out of it. But the distance going to the right actually made it a little bit slower going to the right.
Yeah.
I ended up going to the left as well. It was open enough that if you zigged through there, it was quicker.
Yeah. There was still people, I did notice a few people still going right.
Did you? Okay.
Not top end time people, but
Yeah.
still people going right.
Yeah.
A few C8 Corvettes were going that way.
Because it just felt good. I went to the right just testing it out, and I was like, man, it felt really good because it was wider. The exit was bigger on that side too, just to kind of tempt you to go out there. So you could just like pull a little bit to the right and then just hard left to make that turnaround.
Yeah.
And it felt good driving it out there that way. It's smooth.
Yeah. And then the third obstacle that was for left or right, I'm trying to think of a PG way to say it.
It's a diamond.
Is that how you'd say that?
Yes.
Okay, let's say that's the PG way.
Yes.
So you enter a giant diamond shape, which you choose left or right, and then that leads to a smaller diamond on the other side, which chooses
your final destination.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting because, going left would, again, with the flow, seem like it would be the right way, but going right was the only way that would shorten the distance up.
And make it faster. Yeah, going to the right, you could actually hold the throttle down quite a bit longer.
Yeah.
Whereas if you went to the left, you had to give up on the other side.
Yeah. So it was really nice because the options that were chosen and done was not just slalom.
Right.
It was actually obstacles in the way, which made it fun and entertaining.
Yeah, it was very cool. And there was a couple of 5-box options, and things that you could choose left or right. And I don't know. I tried to make it interesting for everybody, and I wanted it fast and flowy, and it really turned out good.
It flowed really well.
I typically test the course out, after I build it. I'll run a couple of runs on it. I'll run one slow, and then I'll try to, run one as fast as I can at the time.
Your legs must be exhausted by the end of the day.
It's very tiring, but I'm in good shape. So after I ran the first run, I was like, man, that felt really good. Mm-hmm. And typically I'll make some adjustments, changes, either visually or maybe something pinches a little more than I want it to, because I like flow. I don't want it to pinch off a corner or something and have to make an abrupt steering motion if you don't have to. Mm-hmm. But then I ran one at speed, and I was like, that's it, chalk it, we're done. I didn't touch a thing. I was so happy how that turned out.
That's good.
Yeah. So it was pretty good.
That was the vagina section. I mean, diamond section.
The diamond section. That's correct. Yeah. So Saturday, I struggled with my car again on Saturday. The event before, I was struggling getting the car to turn in. Mm-hmm. It was pushing really bad, and I just couldn't figure it out. And so same thing happened on Saturday. Still pushing. In fact, I think it was worse, which I'll get to in a minute because it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I went at lunchtime, and I took a little bit out of my sway bar on the front. I softened it 1 notch.
How much adjustable is it on your Corvette?
I've got, I think, a 4 position on the front and 3 in the rear.
Okay. And it goes from like 50% stiffness?
I couldn't give you that.
Okay.
I don't know. I just, go by feel.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
1, 2, 3, and 4. That's right. It was full stiff is where it was.
Okay.
And so I took one out, and after lunch, my times improved by 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. So it made a big difference. Yes. Yeah. 1.5 to 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then on, what was it? After the races, I threw on my street tires that I brought with me as spares.
Yes. Yep.
And so I ran those as practice. And as soon as I took the front tires off to swap, I looked at it and I was like, these tires are dead. And they've been dead for a while. I had no traction left whatsoever. I hadn't corded. They were perfectly worn all the way across. I'm getting great wear. Mm-hmm. But they were dead as dead could be. And that's why I wasn't. That's why I was pushing so bad.
How could you tell then? If you couldn't see any cords then and stuff.
Wear bars are all gone.
Oh, wow. They were just smooth.
They were just smooth, and they were hard. Like on a tire that still has good grip, you can dig your fingernails into them a little bit. They were hard. You couldn't even do that. So they were not turning on. They weren't working at all.
Okay.
So anyway, I went out and ran practice runs on brand new Vitour street tires. I decided to buy those and try them. Hadn't tried them yet. And I knew that you're supposed to wear them in a bit, do some donuts, do a bunch of figure eights. You got to get the mold, the wax off the tires and that kind of stuff. Shoot, even doing that or even not doing that and going out and just taking like 3 laps on those tires, they were so much better than the Hoosiers. It was stupid.
It was insane.
It was insane. Yeah. So super happy with that.
And those are a street tire?
Yeah, 200 treadwear street tire.
Okay. We had a lot of competitors this last event that were just on street tires, and it was actually quite insane the times they were putting down.
Yeah, really, really good. Anyway, I did run my Hoosiers on the back on Sunday, and I ran the Vitours on the front, and holy crap, that worked really good. Mm-hmm. Because I had dead Hoosiers, anything's going to feel better than those on the front. But I was actually competitive on Sunday, which felt good. I was fighting for the top spot. Ended up 3rd by .018.
Wow.
It is nuts that that's like the level of competition we
Yeah,
have there.
18 thousandths.
0.018.
Yeah.
Damn.
So, yeah, we were really close. I felt good about it because my car, I kind of fell into a better working position by softening that front sway bar. The car was turning incredible. And I just left it there, even with the better tires on it. And man, the car's working good. I am so happy with it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nuts. So
Are you going to be using those the rest of the season? And
I bought those for running like SCCA sanctioned events where I have to run cam and that kind of stuff, where you have to run street tires.
Okay.
And I just wanted to try them, which kind of leads into this last weekend. Went to California, Crow's Landing, to run the Larry Park Memorial event. I ran in Cam S. You have to run street tires and that kind of stuff.
So you got 200 tread wear, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Are Pilot Sports allowed to be there because they're 180 and they do come on factory cars?
I don't know.
Okay.
It might 200 tread wear might be more of a general guideline. I'd have to look at the exact rules and see if it says 160, 180, because I know that there are some that specify 160 and above.
Yeah.
I don't remember KMS.
Okay.
I think it's 200.
KMS is I know if it's the same as KMT and KMC, it's 200. And I can't remember if it, in the rules, they do bring up Pilot Sports, and I can't remember if it says yes or no to them.
I can't remember either. Anyway, Pilot Sports aren't that good. I think you'd be a fool to run those.
I think so.
If you had them, fine, run them. But anyway, so I ran the Vitours down there. I hadn't had enough laps on them to get the wax mold out of the rears.
Okay.
So my first run was a little bit slippery, but they came in really quick because the surface down there is pretty aggressive.
Because it's concrete.
It's concrete, but it's brushed concrete, so it's like sandpaper.
So what's the difference between brushed concrete and normal concrete? Like, is it the way
One
they make it on there?
smooth, the other one has the
Brushed.
sandpaper finish.
Yeah, sandpaper finish. I mean, it's almost like you took a rough broom and drug it over it while it was wet.
Yeah.
So you've got the little knobbies still in the concrete and whatever. Okay. It's not like your shop floor where it's super slick.
Is there a reason they do that, though? For
grip.
For grip?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Traction.
it's not slippery.
Okay.
Anyway.
Or in your garage or shop, it's a little easier to clean.
Is that how most
Yeah, they leave them slippery in garages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't, say the pad out in front of your garage at your house, that's a brushed finish.
Okay.
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 Anyway, ran the Vitours, super, super happy with them. Oh my gosh, the grip was amazing. I mean, Crow's is a little grippy anyway. It's almost, it's such a grippy surface that you're going to get better grip out of whatever tire you run out there. But I don't know. I'm super happy with them. Anybody that is on the fence about trying them, I would say do it. I've been reading a lot of reviews about it. Most people are really happy. They're getting great wear out of them and that kind of stuff. So pretty excited. But besides that, my gosh, running at Crow's was what an amazing, amazing event.
How many compares were there this year?
They cap it at 150, and I know they had a wait list. So, or maybe it's 175, but there was a wait list, so I know they filled it. There was 23 in Cam S, which is pretty big class, if you think about how many cars are showing up. There was another class, I can't recall which one it was, that was also in the 20s, the low 20s for competitors. So a lot of people, a lot of great cars, good competition, a lot of super fun people to hang out with.
What was like the top unique cars you were seeing there?
Ford GT.
Like what kind?
05 to 07.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, that is not something you see at Autocross.
No, you don't.
That's the first time I've ever seen one at Autocross.
Was it actually competitive, or just guy brought it just to bring it?
He was driving pretty good. I don't think he's done a lot of Autocross, but like I was working course when he was running, so it was cool. I got to actually see his car run. He was doing pretty good, and I think the car's pretty capable for Autocross. A little bit more body roll than is something you like.
That's surprising.
Driving Autocross, yeah, you could see it. You could see the difference. The suspension working, but it still seemed to handle it pretty well.
Yeah.
Motor sounded super healthy. They're V8s; they sound good.
Supercharged V8s.
Yeah, you couldn't really hear the supercharger.
That's good. That's actually nice to know.
Yeah, no, it was a good sounding car.
Yeah.
Fun to watch it. Something else that they run out there is an original Cobra 427.
So he came back.
He did. Guy. He's there every year. Yeah,
very nice.
Super good. And I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, the guy that owns the car. But What else? Some vintage, 60s Mustangs. Mike Meyer had his, what did he call it? There's a name for his blue car. Anyway, he had his 60, I think it's a 65. And then Frank Stagnero's Mustang is out there. You've seen that one, the GT350.
Yeah.
And I don't know, various other ones. Cam T, there was quite a good class in Cam T. But the course, I think, was the highlight of it. I had so much fun driving that course. Your typical autocross course, at least in the Northwest, is 45 to 60 seconds, would you say?
I would say, I would say this. If you're in a competitive level in the Northwest, I would say on a smaller course is about 35 to 40 seconds, and a larger course would be anything just below 60 seconds.
Yeah.
For a larger course. And that's for really high-level competitors.
Often we, the Viper Corvette clubs, we average about a 60-second course.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we get down into the low 50s.
Yeah.
If it's a pretty fast course.
But if you took that same course and say put Miata drivers into it that are just new, it'd be like a 75-second course.
Correct.
So to give our listeners some kind of scale.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, some of the other clubs, depending on the venue, you can get down to the 35, high 30-second courses, depending on where they're at. Anyway, so this one was a true 90-second course.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was for the fast guys. Like, I think the top runners in KMS were at 88 seconds or something. There was some people on Sunday got it down into the 83s dirty.
I can't imagine having 90 seconds available for music.
Yeah, you'd run out. You wouldn't even know what to do. You'd be like, my playlist ran out.
I didn't
what
think
do I
about
do?
a second song.
Right. That's awesome. So I rode my my little pit bike around the course Friday night, and I clocked it at 1.6 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was super flowy. Like, I just had a great time. What a great course. Sunday, they switched it around just a little bit and then ran it backwards. And times actually got faster, which surprised me because they took one of the straightaways out and put a slalom in there. And I thought for sure the times would be just a touch slower. They got quicker. Somehow. It ran faster the other way. But, oh my gosh. I've been reliving driving that course since Sunday afternoon. And here it is Wednesday.
Is that...
You're trying to recreate it.
It was so fun. I had so much fun.
Did it give you new ideas for courses to come up?
Not really, no. I mean, it's nothing we haven't never done before.
Yeah.
But they have so much room to play with. We can't even replicate what they do down there.
And to give our listeners an idea, so it is a runway, correct?
It's two intersecting really, really big runways.
It used to be owned by NASA, correct?
Correct. Yeah, they used to land space shuttle there.
So that gives our listener an idea of the giant size we're talking about.
They're at least 2 miles in length. The runways are. Now, we don't use the whole thing.
Yeah.
We just kind of, the course is set up where the runways intersect, and it uses both the runways and some of the taxiway.
Okay.
So there's so much area to run on. It's phenomenal. Nice. If anybody in the area that's listening to me, if you're within an 8 to 10 hour drive of Crow's Landing, California, find one of the AAS events and go drive with those guys. You will not be sorry. It is so worth it. I mean, it cost me $500 in fuel, maybe a little more, and 20 hours worth of driving. Totally worth it.
I do want to give our listeners a notice, not notice, an update, no question. I'm not trying to think.
I don't know. Just spell
A
it.
recommendation.
Okay.
Because this year was different than previous years, for example. This year was held a month beforehand.
They did,
And
yes.
you want to tell them why?
Yeah, so typically this event, the Larry Park Memorial event, is run over the 4th of July weekend. 4th of July in Crow's Landing, California is brutally hot, always. The last event that I did down there on the 4th of July weekend, temps hovered at 110 to 112. The following year, temps were said to be between 115 to 120, so they canceled it and moved it to a later date so that, people wouldn't melt.
Yeah.
Which was smart, and I get it. So this year, I looked it up, thankfully, early enough, and they had moved it clear into June, and it was so perfect.
Nice.
Like the weather, it was like 85 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And
Perfect.
there was some
September
wind. There's always some wind out there, and it kept you cool. It was really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one to give our listeners notes. If you are heading out there, check weather, because if you're someone who is susceptible to sun or heat,
Yeah.
definitely bring water, bring supplies,
Some
and
sort of shade.
and
Yeah.
be checking on that temperature beforehand.
For sure. I think they, don't quote me on this, but I think they canceled all the July events for heat. Apparently, August isn't as hot as July, so they're still running the August, September, October events.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet September, October would be amazing.
I'm going to plan on going down there again September, October. I was talking to one of the guys, and he says, yeah, man, come on down for another.
I might
we
join
do
you
this."
on that if it's in October.
I'd like to get another group of people, because you were going to go last year, and then they moved the event, and it all kind of fell apart.
Yeah. And
This year, the plans didn't line up. You had something else going.
especially if it's in October, because I'm going to be missing the last event of the Corvette and Viper Club again.
Yeah.
That give me at least another event have under my belt towards this.
And in October would be nice because, we start getting into the colder in the Northwest. We go down there and get another dry, good, warm event. So, yeah, I'd like to plan that as well.
Yeah.
Right before depression season kicks
Exactly.
Yeah. How was it for being course workers on that? Because it's so large.
Yeah, it's so big. So, figure there's so many people too. There's 175 drivers, right? So that's a lot of people to work course. Now it's it's a mile and a half plus course.
Yeah.
And they had 7 workstations.
Okay.
But you've got 3 to 4 people at each station, and you just spread out. And the course was such that, there was cones hit, but it wasn't super cone heavy.
Okay.
So
There was no Mustangs there, obviously, then.
the Mustangs did take their toll. Yeah, they did. Anyway, working course was not bad. There was one point on Sunday where I was working station 2 that the visual coming around the corner confused some people, and they were getting lost and then going backwards on course. So there was that was a little sketchy for a few cars, but we got that straightened out, and most people figured it out. But
With their
Otherwise,
course
it was-
setup,
it was
do
good.
they use traditional just orange cones, or do they use any kind of pointer?
so they
indicator
do
cones?
use green pointers.
Okay.
They did run out, so there was a couple of spots that had a couple orange pointers, but it wasn't distracting or anything. But yeah, they use the orange stand up and the green pointer. So for us, really easy to adapt to because we do the same thing. But the course was fast and flowy. You obviously, for a higher speed course, you really need to know how to read ahead.
Yeah.
You've got to look a good 2 obstacles ahead
Yeah.
and plan. You need somewhat of a memory to be able to know what's coming up. You got to be able to anticipate.
Yeah.
Right?
That way you're not reacting to everything coming up. You have.
Yeah, you got to, and you can tell the drivers that don't plan ahead. They're driving right off the hood of their car, and oof, it never, it doesn't come out great.
Yeah.
But my gosh, I just had so much fun. I want to go do it again next weekend.
How many laps did you guys get, and when did the event
Not
start,
very
and when did it end?
It started 9 a.m. first car, and it got done at 6.
Oh, wow.
Very
So we're
long
late.
day. 5 run groups.
Okay.
Damn.
So was there work, run, rest, or
Yes.
okay?
So you run one, you work one, the rest of the day off.
Okay.
So, and it was typically back to back. So it's not like you were working first group and then didn't run till afternoon. It wasn't like that. You'd run back to back. Not very many runs. So that is a drawback with that many people. I don't think that their regular events pull at 175 people. So you get more runs, but that particular event, 4 runs a day. So
A day.
yeah, it's not a lot,
Okay.
but oh my gosh, it's worth it.
But it's like 5 miles.
Yeah.
That's true
Yeah.
on that one, and that's
I mean,
You're not going to get that up here.
you get 10
Well, you get 10, but how many miles is it?
miles.
You think so?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Because our courses are about a mile.
About a mile?
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say the ones we run at PIR aren't that long.
No.
no, they are.
Those are
not,
short.
no.
Yeah, those are like probably
Yeah.
half
So
a
it's
mile.
more like a national event where you don't get a lot of runs.
Yeah.
But my God, I had so much fun. I would do that every weekend if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah. How were your tires after that event? Because concrete does eat them up a lot more.
It does. It really does. And I haven't even pulled my car out of the trailer yet because I haven't had time. I glanced at them, run my hand under there. They actually feel pretty good.
That's good.
Not super concerned about it, really, but that's me. I mean, I bought 2 full sets of tires this last month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's dumb, but
It's dumb, but it's what we do for automotive.
it's what we do. It's what we do. I do think these tires are going to hold up pretty good.
Knock on wood. Find someone, knock on
So,
wood.
Yeah.
what are they?
Vitours.
Who makes them?
Vitour.
Vitour.
Yeah, they're out of Japan.
I
is where
honestly
the
have not heard of them
manufacturing is.
until you brought them up
Interesting.
at that last event. Like, what made you go that route? Because, like,
I've just been seeing a lot of them. Well, the first I saw of them was January-ish. I started seeing some social media stuff. They had just come out this year, maybe really late last year. I can't put a timestamp on it.
yeah.
But then I went to the SCCA Time Attack in Las Vegas in February. They were there. They had some C8s running them, a couple other cars running them. I was paying attention. They were doing good. Like, those tires look good. They're holding up well. So I started watching their social media. People are posting their experiences, just random. Everybody that's kind of trying them because they're new on the market, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's wanting to see how they do. And I was like, it looks like they're doing pretty good. Like, their publicity from everybody that's running them looking okay. I haven't had seen anybody with any real bad things to say about them, like they're too hard or they don't heat up right or anything like that. So that's what made me think I need another set of streets. I'm going to give them a shot. They're the same price as everything else, so it's like, what have you got to lose?
Yeah. It's a great time to bring up our sponsor for the show, Vitour Wheels and Tires.
I wish. Yeah. I mean, if they wanted to do something, I would be certainly willing.
So bringing it back around, because you said you were going to buy some either way.
Yeah.
Regardless, for tires, especially the size you run, that's a pretty big expense. Even for even a regular person. I shouldn't say regular person, but like when
For anybody.
anyone buying tires,
Yeah.
you're spending $1,200, $1,500.
18.
18.
19.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know they're that much for that
Yep.
one. To go and be the first to try that or be something new on that.
Right.
That says a lot that they perform that well in your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. I mean, it is a big output. It's kind of it's a little risky to go that unknown. But like I said, I was reading a lot of people's reviews on it. It's like, if they were getting bad reviews, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have picked something else.
Yeah.
One of our racing buddies, Joe, he was running them at, I believe, the first event. And
He was? I thought it was on Hoosiers.
no,
Oh, wow.
he's got the Vitour. So he's experimenting with sizes and that kind of stuff for his car because it's a little different, and he's running big wheels and I run 18s, and he's got a staggered setup and all that.
And he's a C8.
Yeah.
C8 Z06.
Yes. Okay. So, I talked to him a little bit and he was liking what he was getting out of them and that kind of thing. So that was good. It's nice to talk to somebody in person about it. So anyway, that was kind of what played into my decision to go ahead and give it a try.
Sorry.
Nice.
Do not let me forget to bring up when we get to this section of it for the ZR1X about tires.
Okay.
'Cause I've got questions and thoughts on that.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, that's kind of my review of the whole Larry Park Crow's Landing.
Nice.
God, I love that place. It's I was so upset that you weren't there. I even texted you.
I know.
You did not text me back.
I was that busy at Offkai.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately from sun up to sundown. I was very excited for meeting people.
I'm sure you were. You were a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, and off topic, off cars for Hot Mom, and
Sure.
because there were cars there.
All right, let's go for it. Let's do it.
No, I was just excited because
Yeah.
I've been talking to friends online and got to go to the community. We were seeing a YouTuber that we follow, and there was thousands of people there.
Yep.
Great to know. The YouTuber even got to talk, have a one-on-one, which was nice. And as you guys know, I'm a very big talker. When I actually did get a meter, it was the second time I've ever been speechless afterwards talking to someone.
The first time being Jay Leno.
Jay Leno, where I couldn't say words at all for like 15 minutes.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
I saw it. I witnessed it.
Mine was Ken Block.
Oh, yeah.
Ken Block left me speechless after I got to talk to him.
Yeah.
All right.
That was
That's cool.
Yeah. So it was pretty epic on that one. But no, I even forgot that Crow's Landing was that weekend until
Yeah.
you texted me.
Yeah.
Because I was in my own little world this
Sure.
last weekend.
Yeah. No, I was super bummed because I wanted you, because you and Jason had both committed to going last year.
Yeah.
And fell apart, which kind of a bummer, but I was really hoping both of you guys would go again or commit to going.
Yeah.
Nobody did.
Yeah.
So I'll make the solo trip. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll take it. But yeah, we'll get that together again. I know our racing community here and the people that we drive with would love it.
Yeah.
They would come away speechless, I'm sure.
We are very competitive.
Could you
up
imagine?
here,
We're
and
very
imagine
competitive,
the competitiveness down there with us.
Exactly. I mean, okay, so in CAMS, I finished 8th both days.
Yeah.
The top 5 were like in the high 87s to high 88 second range. I was a 92, like a 92.2 or something like that.
Okay.
That was on Saturday. On Sunday, they were still in that same range, the 87 to 88, high 88. I dropped my times to a 90.2, something like that. So I got closer. I got more comfortable with how well the car was sticking and handling and all that stuff. So I really got into it and pushed it harder, and the car never gave up on me. I was just like, wow.
That's good.
Yeah, I was super impressed.
Yeah. How was
that just tells you where the competition's at.
Yeah.
Like, those guys are freaking fast down there.
Yeah.
I would like to see more of our Northwest guys go down there and compete against that and try to stack up against it. It's hard. Those guys are quick.
It'd be good to know, and because I feel like our group is one of the fastest in the Northwest. Would you agree? Disagree?
Yeah.
And it would be nice to find another fast group.
Yes.
So that way, all of us
you get that comparison and you know where you stack up.
Yeah, where we have our strong points, where we have our weak points.
For sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I enjoy stacking myself up against those guys because they are very fast. Like, there's national champions in that group.
Yeah.
In that top 5 group. The 6th and 7th place were right there with me in the 90, the same time range. The 92 on Saturday, the 90s on Sunday. We were right there.
Was there, how many cars were on track at the time?
At least 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Possibly more?
Maybe first split second.
Okay.
Right. So
There's probably one
Mostly
coming
just-
on as one's going
exactly.
off type
Yeah,
thing.
that kind of thing. So pretty much 3 at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, because the track is so big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was going to ask was because Crow's Landing is a little bit out of a major city, right?
It's way out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right off of I-5, maybe 2-3 miles right off of I-5.
But it's like an hour down Sacramento, right?
More than that. Hour out of Stockton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring up is if anyone is planning on going, us or listeners or
Yes.
whoever.
Trailer.
Yeah, that was the biggest
that's
thing. Is
stay on
lodging and food.
No, there is lodging. I
Okay.
mean, if you want to stay in a hotel, there's less than 5 miles away. There's hotels in Patterson.
Okay. Fuel?
Plenty fuel, all the services you could want.
Okay.
It's right there. You can go to town in 10 minutes. It's not a huge town, but they do have hotels and stores and all the stuff.
Here's the main question.
Okay.
Breakdowns. If you have a catastrophic, like say if you drove your daily there.
Oh, that would be dumb, but okay.
Okay. Well, because there are competitors who do drive
Yes.
their car to events. And
Yes, there's some people that do,
Is
even
this-
in that area.
is this kind of event where it's like recommended bring a trailer because something happens, you're waiting hours for a tow truck?
Where are you
honestly
driving in
don't-
from?
Yeah,
Well,
San Francisco. I mean,
Last major city's what, 2 hours we said?
well, Stockton's an hour away. San Francisco is probably 2.5. Sacramento is 2.5.
Okay.
I wouldn't drive from here without a trailer,
No,
but maybe from Stockton.
Well,
yeah.
I bring it like if
some people do.
yeah, like if
drive
they have
in.
an 8.6 or a Miata, or a Subaru, hell, a Mustang.
Have AAA.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's auto parts stores in town, so if you need an auto part, that you can buy off the shelf, you can go get it. But I mean, that's autocross in general. People drive 2 hours to an event and drive their car and then drive it home. They're taking a chance. I've done it.
Yeah.
It's not the smartest thing if you're going to beat on your car.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. And yeah, like I said, you can camp on site, you can stay in town. Some people, there's people that do both.
Mm.
So the services are there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yep.
Exciting.
Yes. There was something else, I think, after the squirrels ran away. I don't remember what it is now. Maybe it'll come back to me.
To you or to me? Because I was just thinking
I don't know.
Corvette. I wanted to know, because you talked about KMS, what, if any, did Cam C look like? So Cam C, for those who don't know, it stands for complimentary. It's from 2000 and...
Cam C was a
Cam C is 2000 muscle cars and up.
I don't remember I don't have the results in front of me. They're probably posted on the AAS website right now, but Cam C was a pretty decent sized class.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I bring up with Cam C is most time, especially on a higher competition level, you will only see Camaros and Mustangs of a newer generation. I wanted to know, did you see any challengers there, older Mustangs? Like, what was kind of the spread of that? And then also because Cam C, the biggest thing of that is the weight limit for it, the minimum is heavy. It's like 3,300 minimum has to be. And these cars that are competing are typically around the 4,000 pound range, 3,800 pound range.
So I did see like the 197 Mustangs, several, probably, at least 6.
Saw multiple Ligers.
At least 6 of them. Wow. Not a single red one.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mostly black, right?
Nah, blue.
Oh.
Let's see. There's blue. There was a yellow, white,
Yellow,
a couple black ones. So there were some, and they were doing pretty good, I thought. GT350, no GT350Rs. I know that one of the people there has one, but she chose to drive a Tesla, so that was terrible. But yeah. What else? Some of the older Mustangs, but those are in CAM-T, aren't they?
No, CAM-T, yeah. SN, sorry. The Fox bodies in back would be CAM-T.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a couple of Fox bodies, and then the 60s era Mustangs, and then
any Hellcats?
No Dodge stuff whatsoever.
That's surprising. Even Vipers, did those even?
Oh, there were some Vipers. There were three Vipers, but those were on CAM-S.
Yeah. But
those don't count.
No. But
it was fun to see them out there. A couple of the 60s. 67 to 69 Camaros, a couple of those, and a couple of the second gen
with
70.
With Cam C, the other thing is because
Camaros.
of the weight limit, it's also a lot of trucks that could be in there. Did you see any of those?
There was one El Camino.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, it was fun.
Really?
Nice. Yeah, but no S10 or I'm sorry, C10s or.
How big was the driver's mullet?
I didn't notice. That's a good question. I didn't notice. Yeah, just the one. No real truck showing this year.
Okay.
Kind of bummed at that, but Corvette Central for sure. There was a lot of CAM-S, Corvettes.
Any rare Corvettes? I know everyone's going to say my Corvette's best Corvette.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, there were a couple of... I am drawing a blank on the years, early 60s.
So of the Stingrays?
Yeah, okay. Not the split window, but the same body
C2 style?
Yeah.
Okay. What about C8s and Z06s?
No Z06s. I recall seeing maybe 2 C8s.
That's surprising. Yeah, that is very surprising.
A little bit. Yeah.
Pretty
good contingent of the BRZ, FRS, and tuner stuff.
Were they pretty competitive?
I didn't watch them.
Okay.
They were kind of opposite my run group, and I was having lunch, so I didn't really watch those guys. There was some, what do they call it, the XP group, where they've got the motor swaps and that kind of stuff. They have to run in that.
Yeah.
Some really fast cars in that group. There was 4 open wheel cars.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, and those guys are always quick.
Yeah.
One of them has a 3-cylinder snowmobile motor in it.
Oh, Rotax?
It's super loud.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's not a Rotax.
Really?
Well, 3-cylinder, I don't know. Maybe it is a Rotax. I didn't think it was. But whatever. Snowmobile. Yeah. Just loud as, hurt your ears kind of loud.
Interesting.
And I think they run a centrifugal clutch.
It seemed like it.
Yeah, they're fast, and they are always
once they get going.
Power.
Yeah, you have to keep the power on all the time, it seems like. Pretty large contingent of Porsches.
Large, I mean
A lot of them.
Like 30? We're talking 40?
Yeah, a good between 20 and 30 probably.
And we're talking, because when you say Porsche, first thing in mind is 911, 911, 911.
Yeah, they're all 911s, aren't they?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is, do you get, was there a mix of, like, say, 914s, 924s?
No. All new stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sorry, I'm not that good at the, what they're all.
The 996, 998.
Seven, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
GT3s.
right, some GT3s. There's a GT2.
That's cool.
Super rare.
Yeah, I don't get to see those very often.
I've seen that guy down there before. And I don't know. Porsches are fun to watch. They're quick, especially a driver that really knows his car, really knows that Porsche is a power-on car, in corners and stuff like that. They're pretty cool. There's a couple of them that are full race car setup with cages and everything.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and they're neat. They're fun to watch. I would love to drive one. I don't really want to own one.
Why not?
Maintenance.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Even if you do it yourself?
I think so. That's the perception I get from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parts come from overseas, man.
Well, I know parts come from overseas, but so do a lot of other vehicles. I think a Porsche, if you're doing the maintenance yourself,
I'm sure that helps, but still.
Older Porsche probably easier
Maybe
to maintain and stuff. Like I'm talking like pre-90, even in the early 90s, probably not too bad.
Yeah.
But once you start getting to the later Porsches where everything's down to like thousands of an inch precision on how much wear it can have and with all the sensors and stuff.
Yeah.
And that getting factory specs from seeing if something's out of wear or whatnot. They want to have you take it to the dealership.
Sure.
I could see that being a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be curious.
That would be a reason I wouldn't want to own it.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to how easy it was to find pre-90s Porsche parts.
Well,
I don't know.
I know Porsche
Anymore.
Well, Porsche has a whole program where they're making, parts for
Aftermarket.
like the factory is
okay.
building.
Well,
like they have a whole advertising thing where a guy brings in a Porsche tractor from the 30s and they'll get him parts for it.
Right.
Yeah, if you got deep pockets, yeah.
It wasn't deep pockets on that guy. Like at least in the conversion, that's what they're conveying.
Oh.
Yeah, but I bet it's not quick either.
No, but the fact is, it is their factory support for.
Yeah, what I'm saying is readily available, inexpensive.
I don't know. I feel like 90s, I bet that stuff's pretty readily available. Didn't we go through an entire thing about turning your cell phones off?
It is.
I think he's the one that said it.
I think so.
Yeah, it is off.
Anyway, I don't know. I feel like in the 90s to 2000s, there's probably a lot of parts available for Porsches. They're super popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Still don't want to own it. Okay, so we've kind of run amok with the Crow's Landing talk. Happy to do it. Let's move on to the ZR1.
Okay.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because it's not a project car. It doesn't really, and I suppose we could say, autocross isn't necessarily.
I've got
either.
some things to say about it in terms of project cars and stuff like that.
Yes.
Can we give for our audience a general overview of what it is and why it's a big deal first off?
Go ahead.
Okay. So we were just announced about a month ago we had the ZR1 announced, which is the second final iteration to knowledge right now of the C8 Corvette. That being a flat plane 6.2 liter,
I believe.
with twin turbo V8 making 1,000 horsepower.
1064. Don't sell it short.
64 horsepower.
Right.
With a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, and extreme aero kit.
An absolute buttload of horsepower.
Right.
We, meaning the general public, it was well known that there was going to be a successor to that, and it was, I assumed especially, it was going to come out next year, which would be the codename Zora, which would be combining the E-Ray front electric motors with the ZR1 twin turbo V8 hybrid. That was just announced as a ZR1X, now being a 1,250 horsepower
Good Lord.
track attack monster.
Right.
And I think the top speed on that's 233 miles an hour.
Right.
With also clarification of 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds.
Yeah, they're like 1.8.
And up to 80 miles.
But to get that top speed,
Yeah.
you have to delete the aero kit.
True.
Because it
But they're still reduced down to 217 miles an hour.
right
With the aero kit.
with the aero kit.
which I think that's the better way. It looks more aggressive, more good thing.
I agree.
And then lastly, the biggest thing I said, 0-60 under 2 seconds. What's crazy is it will pull 1G or is it 2Gs? Do you know?
Oh, it have to be more than one.
Has to be
It's-
more than one.
So it's 2Gs acceleration up to 80 miles an hour is
yeah.
what the driver will feel.
That's pretty cool.
You know.
Yep.
So and
You remember the topped out price tag?
so the claim is it's going to be, and I think this is all still speculation. I don't think they've announced it at $200 or under $200,000.
Oh, I thought it was over. That was my assumption from the little bit of reading that I did.
It's like it's 200 is what people are.
And how many are they
Yeah,
gonna
I
build?
think it's going to be more like 230.
I think it's going to be that. Regardless on that, I don't care who you are. This car is going to change the entire car industry. It makes.
I think that's giving it too much credit.
Yeah.
You're telling me right now, with that kind of stats, that kind of money, you're putting better performance than a Ferrari
Yes.
F80.
Yes.
Why would you buy
I know.
one? Why would you buy?
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you buy that over a Ferrari?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's no point to.
Yeah,
like,
why would you buy a Ferrari? Because it's a Ferrari.
I get that,
And that's why you buy a Ferrari.
and you're still going to lose.
Performance is not why you're buying a Ferrari
Yeah.
or a Lamborghini or a McLaren.
So
It-
it's not the
it's
first time.
status. Those cars are status.
I understand that.
Well, that's.
but-
I'm just telling you. I'm answering your question.
Okay.
So those cars are status. They always have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have good performance and they're fun to drive and neat stuff.
Yeah.
Chevy just wanted to beat them.
Yeah.
It is also not the first time Chevy has had a car that would destroy
Yeah.
a Ferrari.
when it-
Many Chevys will outperform.
But when it
Ferrari
does
the
happen,
same year.
Ferrari steps up. The 348 was the best example.
Well, I guess they're going to have to step up.
And that's-
what you're saying
that's what
as
I'm
far
saying.
as change.
What about the F40?
No.
No, like because
I mean,
As neat as it is, it's a monster for what it is.
And
it doesn't outperform it.
yeah,
And especially you can't even compare it because that car is now 30 years old.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So 30-year-old technology going to outperform
no, I
brand new?
thought the Corvette in a straight line.
The only thing that would
beat the F40 off
No.
the line year for year.
no, even the ZR1 at the time didn't beat it. What it beat at the time was the Sledgehammer Callaway did. Beat the F.
So it was an aftermarket.
It was an aftermarket.
Yeah.
That being said, great car,
Sure.
but in a straight line, not the same
It
as
did not beat it in looks, though.
Yes.
What an ugly car.
yeah.
Callaway?
Yeah.
Actually,
yeah.
Yeah.
on that tangent, I found this out, and I did not know. It's a new Ferrari fact. So on an F40, the passenger side on the wing is the only one that says F40 on it. The driver's side doesn't have that because Ferrari didn't. I believe it says it. Ferrari didn't want to have it that way because they believed the way it would flip the numbers would make it look like it was actually make the car look slow. Because it goes against the angles of the car.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Didn't know that either.
Yeah. But anyways, whenever a car comes out and makes a statement, it changes the car industry completely.
Yeah, it depends on how the other manufacturers respond.
Well, look at the
And my thought
Mm-hmm.
of this is same, tangent. Where do they go from here?
I've got some thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, 1,250 horsepower.
Yep.
One, I'm super surprised they put that out to the general public.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yep.
I wonder what kind of liability that puts them under,
Yep.
if any. I mean, car manufacturing alone is a sketchy business, if you
Yeah.
think about it. But 1,250 horsepower, how do you top that in the C9? You've got to, granted, they're only going to build 300 of these things or whatever per year. I don't know. So it becomes a rare car right off the bat.
Yep.
They don't need to top it. They put this thing out and they're just like done.
Yeah.
That's it. And maybe that's the direction they'll go. I don't know. But, they put out a C9 that is, they changed this, that, or the other. I have no idea whether it'll be the same shape or what. 1,400 horsepower?
Well,
where do they go?
It doesn't even matter, not even if for that, other manufacturers.
Yeah.
How do you top this car? And that
that's
and
hard.
I feel like there's two ways this goes. I think car companies, I don't care who you are, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Dodge, Honda, the only way you can do that is either A, you continue the wars. You go crazy numbers. You go 1,500,
Right.
2,000, more electric motors, whatever.
Right.
Okay. And I think the other focus that they go to is you make it, instead of that, you say bang for buck price and you go for the experience. what is the best bang for buck price you can get while being involved in these cars? You bring back like for example, Ferrari's now on. There's been major rumors about them bringing back manual transmission because drivers want to have the feel of being engaged with their cars.
I agree.
As someone who's driven modern Ferraris and modern sports cars, it's not as fun because you're not as engaged. You're not as feeling as a car as you would be in, say, like a 90s Ferrari or an 80s Ferrari.
No, I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And that being said, the basic consumer is not going to pay, say $300,000 for, markup or whatever for a manual transmission. That's where it comes in the bang for buck price.
Yeah.
If you can get something, say, at between 50 to 120,000 that has performance figures of what a supercar would be, say, in the 2000s now.
What do you consider that to be?
Like 0 to 60 in under about 4 seconds, a top speed of about 200 miles an hour, with looks that still drop dead stunning, while being, enough tech where it's a driver's car, you can have your music, AC, maybe CarPlay, but not enough where you need electric motors, huge assists onto it, driver's aids where it finds you on the road and goes on that, and gimmicks.
Do you think, I have my own answer for this, but do you think that car, say, what you're describing in my head is a C6 Corvette. Okay, do you think that car updated, new, right, but naturally aspirated, plenty of power, it's 505, hold on, not done, 505 off the showroom floor. It's not a lot, but it's enough to get you in trouble. It's a 200 mile an hour car. Manual transmission, new, sold now, would be popular.
So did you want to say anything on this topic, Professor, before I jump into this?
So
to go on a long tangent.
Do I think it would be popular? I mean, if you're looking at a car that has 1,200 horsepower versus a car that has 500.
Yeah, but we're talking sub $80,000, brand new.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of the difference between a Mustang GT and the GTR?
GTD? No,
GTD.
It's not. It's not even that.
Not even.
Are you
GTD
sure?
is $300,000.
It's $300,000.
Right.
I mean,
and
but
it's
the
not-
Mustang GT doesn't have that. Doesn't have the performance
not even close.
Not even
of a Corvette.
No,
Right.
it's not.
No.
500 horsepower.
Yeah, it's not even close.
I mean, if they could put 500 in
the
it.
comparison is it's a similar comparison, right?
Okay.
So one is a track car, complete track car.
Right.
One's got 1,200 horsepower.
Right.
One has 505 horsepower. It's a little less than half.
Yeah, but
It's
the
still
general consumer can afford it.
It's still respectable.
Right.
I mean, you're going to get the younger people buying that car, right?
That's what I think too. Like, it's an approachable car.
Also, I think not every young person or everybody that goes and buys a Corvette
Wants that.
deserves to drive 1,200 horsepower.
I would
agree with that too.
Yeah. Hold that off because we'll get on that topic in a sec. Okay. Let me go on back to where you were saying. It's like, how do you top that, and what?
We're backing up.
Because you and me, we had that conversation a while ago.
Yeah.
How do you top the C8, especially if you have in the car that we talked about, and you just said a C6, a modernized C6, would that fit it?
Right.
And in my opinion, I think like if Corvette ever wanted to build something like that, like in the range of say $50,000 to $100,000, and build something that could top the C8.
I didn't say top. I said for my because we'd changed the thought process of not where do they go now, but you were saying, what if they put out something that people can afford to drive, something fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you're right. An updated C6
or whatever
would be that range, something like that, or
Right.
an Audi R8, or like there's a lot of used cars on the market that are in that range.
Yeah.
That it's a shame that they're not building newer versions of that, or just a little bit tweak of that retro, quote unquote, even though it's
Quote
old.
unquote. Yeah,
But
it's just
like-
more of an approachable, usable, fun car.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to buy a new one, every guy can't afford the $200,000 C8, right?
No.
So that's why they buy the Stingray 'cause at $60,000 now or $80,000 for a optioned out one.
Yeah.
For
It's
a
not.
C6
No, C8
or a C8. Okay.
Yeah.
Really? That low right now?
for Stingray.
Yeah. You could buy used ones for like 50, 60
Yeah.
grand now.
Okay.
But I don't think the driving experience is as good as a C6 or C7. Even the C7 is marginal to me because there's too many paddle shifts.
Can you say that if it's a Z06? Because you can always take a base Z06 or base
No.
C8 and add like bigger brakes.
No.
Sway bar.
I was talking about the Stingray. I do think the Z06 is a fun car to drive.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
You feel engaged. The car is responsive, and you can actually feel what it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you lose a little bit of that in the base models.
Yeah.
You don't have that same engagement, the same feel.
Mm-hmm.
So
But if you look at it, Corvette as a whole,
Yeah.
let's just, for example, say the 2025s,
yeah,
right? You have everything from the base model C8 to what's the new one?
ZR1X.
X.
Yeah.
ZR1X. So you're looking at, if you went to buy it off the showroom floor today, you're probably looking at 80,000, 70,
yeah.
80,000
Yeah.
for a base model,
probably.
and 230,000 for the top end model.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
a fucking huge range.
And
It is.
that's provided you can actually get the one at the top.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody.
Let's say you can.
Not everybody's going to be able to afford it.
I'm not
first
saying
of all.
afford. I'm saying availability.
Right.
Get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to be able to afford it. The people that can
Right.
are going to pay a premium to get it.
Right.
If they can, right?
Right.
And you're like 200 or 300 of them statewide or countrywide
Yeah, something like that.
or worldwide.
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably we'll say 300 of them. There's more than 300 dealerships in the United States.
For sure.
Not every dealership's going to get them.
Nope.
And if we'll say 2 goes to every state, you know, you're not going to see that car very often, because even if 2 go to every state, there's going to end up being states that don't have them, because Miami,
Yeah, they're gonna
Phoenix,
get multiples.
LA,
But-
they're going to buy those things.
No, for sure. And that's a whole nother end of this topic, right? Is who's going to buy that car? Where's it going to go? A lot of them are going to be old guys
Yeah.
that can afford it. You know, good for them. They're going to go buy it. They're hardly going to drive it. It's going to sit in their garage. It's a trophy,
Yeah.
and it'll probably appreciate in value
Oh, for sure.
because there are supposedly so
It's-
few of them, right?
Yeah.
Especially if they don't drive them.
Especially, and that's why they're buying it.
Yes.
You know, it's quote unquote investment car. I get it. That's fine.
Here's a question to ask you guys, because so one car that of the Corvettes that's not even being talked about is the E-Ray.
Yep.
Okay. Granted, from last sources I had from a friend of ours, said they are currently not producing them for whatever reason. Like they've stopped production right now.
Yeah.
Probably weren't super popular, were they?
No, there's some other issues. I think.
Yeah, I think probably supply chains or whatnot.
Yeah.
Regardless, that will come up. That will be another available car to have. But what I was just looking into and finding out is, so the E-Ray has the 6.2 liter LT motor and makes 500 horses from the base model C8. I'm surprised we don't have a E-Ray yet that has the Z06 5.5 that makes 670 horses into it. And we may see that coming along the line. And because it's not going to be the ZR1X, you'll have something, you know, that's that mid-range now. So instead of you have the 200,000 for the ZR1X,
Right.
100 and let's say 80,000 for the ZR1.
How many horsepower does the Z06 have?
A Z06 has 670.
Okay.
Then you combine that with an E-Ray, now you're talking about 800 probably. 900.
Okay. Here's another issue
Okay.
with all the Corvette bullshit. Too many models.
Yeah.
Do you think that's an issue?
I do.
Why?
Too many to choose from.
Well, yeah, I don't know. They're trying to cater to everybody. Okay, how many models do they have? 5 models or 4? Is it 4? Stingray.
They have the
There's
C8.
a anniversary edition Stingray, 70th, whatever. It's got some extra option package.
it's 2.
They've got the Z06, the E-Ray,
Yep.
the Zora, the ZR1, and the ZR1X. That's 6.
And that's not including also when you're buying a base model, and I think
How many options you can do?
Well, you go LT1, LT2, LT3.
Right.
You know,
Is there any other car on the market that has that many different models.
Mustang's not kind of close.
I don't think it.
I don't even
have
think
that
they come
many.
No.
So you got a base model Mustang, GT Mustang,
Dark Horse.
the Dark Horse.
Shelby, technically, I guess.
So a
Well,
350.
they changed it in the last.
Well, you have the
of
Shelby
years.
GT500, then the Shelby GT350.
350.
You know,
Do they still have?
I mean,
the Mach 1?
can you count
No,
those
you have the Mach
because it's
E.
not? It's a
That's not a Mustang.
it's a Ford, but it's an aftermarket Ford, right?
but they're selling it at dealers and they're trying to say it's from them, but it's not. It's just a supercharged Mustang.
So
It's not
maybe
even
there's
the flipper.
four versions of
Four
it.
versions.
It's not the same as Corvette with 6.
That has 6. I
from
mean,
the factory,
you're
yeah.
kind of close, but I mean, 6 seems a little excessive.
I think it seems excessive.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I
That's
mean-
my opinion. And
So-
it means jack shit. But
The
That's-
one thing I wanted to bring this all back,
okay.
especially with the ZR1 coming out, okay, and relate this back to project cars.
Yes.
My thing that I was wondering, with this all coming through, and especially with all these different model ranges, how much money do you need to actually put into a project car to be reaching these level of performances? As well as, is it even worth it when, say, like, in 10 years' time, a base model C8, let's say, is now 25 grand? And the performance you get out of that and throwing money at that.
Right.
How much?
I kind of, I haven't
The technology will
thoughts
trickle
about
down.
it. I have thoughts about it. So the whole, your general idea was buy performance or build performance.
Yeah.
There's room for both because the old guy that finally made his, fortunes, worked all his life, he wants to buy that Corvette.
Yeah.
And he spends his $200,000 and he toodles around Florida in his ZR1X and never, breaks the speed limit.
Yeah.
Cool. Parks it, drives it maybe 1,000 miles a year at most, right?
Yep.
He doesn't have the wherewithal or the desire to build that car.
No.
He bought the performance.
Yeah.
He's not even using it. And there's other people that will use the performance.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty small percentage. They bought it.
Yeah.
Good for them. They can do that just like anybody else that buys a supercar. The guys that build the performance like to build shit.
Yeah.
And they get massive satisfaction out of that. I do.
Yeah.
I get that. I get putting your hands on it and turning every nut and bolt and knowing what's been done.
Yeah.
And it was your brainchild that took this other car, or maybe it's, a proper running vehicle that you just modified into a monster.
Yeah.
But they did it. Like, there is so much satisfaction in that. It's two different groups.
So
Totally two
I
different
got
groups.
I got another one
The
too.
Okay.
okay.
I got another one. Sometimes you have people that don't like the new shit because of the way they look versus the old shit.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Well, that
Because
too. But those
personally-
guys like to build shit too.
Right. Personally,
Yeah.
I like the look of the C5 better than the C6, 7s, and 8s.
Okay.
Personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you're a C6 guy.
That's quite all right. I will interject. I am looking for the cheapest manual C5 I can find.
Ooh.
Convertible?
No, hardtop.
It'd have to be a basic.
Just so you know.
Basic model, or it could be a Z06.
No.
Cheapest
C5.
C5 manual
Yeah.
that I can find.
Okay, so it can be a base.
Don't care.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, I like the look of that car. If I'm going to go out and spend $100,000 to buy a C8, I'm just going to take that $100,000 and buy
it
the
into it.
$25,000 car and put it into that.
Yeah, and build what you like,
And-
what you want.
Honestly, I think I'm going to get more out of this car that I built,
Yeah,
dollar for,
performance.
dollar for performance,
Yeah,
than I would have out of this $100,000 car.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be half into it.
possibly yes.
So then it brings back to my second part of that question is time.
Yeah,
Because think about this. Your car, when it came out in 2009, right?
mine is an 07.
07.
They came out in 06 with
Yeah. The Z06
C6.
time, one of the baddest cars on the market.
Yeah.
Meaning awesome,
yeah,
And that right now is almost a 20-year-old car. You can pick up a Z06 for what, 27, 26?
no, 50.
Is it 50 for a C6?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's say a base,
C5s are less, but this
Yeah.
let's say a
Z06 is
base model Corvette then of C6 is
yeah,
about
25.
25,
Yeah.
and you're still getting performance. You're getting 450 horses,
Decent,
400
yeah.
horses.
Yeah,
Now think of that where these C8s are going to be going down. We're going to have those Z06s are going down.
Yeah, for sure. They will hit a bottom.
And
for sure.
those are going to then become the next projects.
Agreed.
So, like, even though right now...
I
the
don't
new
disagree
things
with
on
that at all.
one, it's when those become it, are they going to be the best bang for buck? Or is it going to be better to stick with, say, like, the C6, the C5?
Well,
Because...
there's limitations. It depends on what you want to do with it. Yes, I agree that those cars are going to become project cars. You know, when they start hitting the 10 to 15-year-old mark, that's when they're going to, you know, maybe they've hit bottom dollar then, probably at 20 years old. I don't know what that bottom dollar looks like, because right now you pick up a used one for $60,000, maybe less. I don't know. I haven't really priced that market. There's limitations on that car depending on what you want to do with it. That was my point, I guess. It's got tire clearance issues. You've got a weight balance issue because of the mid-mounted motor, right? So your steering is a little different. Now, this is compared to a front-engine car.
Yeah.
So there's just stuff that you have to work. Now, it can be fixed with dollars and parts to a degree. You know, if you want wider tires on the front of that, you're pretty much forced into a wide body kit.
Yeah. I guess the biggest reason that it comes over time is like, so your Corvette, I would argue, because you've modified it a bunch, is way faster than, say, any standard Z06. I don't care who the driver is.
Yeah.
Okay. Or sorry, C8 Corvette, I meant, you know.
Standard, yes, for sure.
That being said, when those prices are down where they're affordable project, and say over time where computers have been cracked, more updated market,
Yes.
now, will that car, with modification, will now that make it so the C6, you know...
Yeah, will it outperform it? Yeah,
Exactly.
it could, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, with enough massaging and throwing more dollars at it. I mean, you can definitely get the performance out of the motor package, I would believe.
Yeah.
Especially a non-built C6 Z06. Because it was only 505 stock.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is still we're saying only. That's still a good number for even the basic person.
You're correct. It is.
know?
Yeah. What was, maybe the base C8 horsepower? Was it 450?
The base C8?
Yeah.
Base C8's 500.
Is it 5?
No, 495.
Okay. Yeah, it was
Which is
under 5.
still impressive.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
No, that's a good amount of horsepower. I think the paddle shifting, all the things. Yeah, there's going to have to be computer break-ins and all that kind of stuff. But they'll figure that out.
But it's kind of like right now, as we're going, we still have C8s in our competitive for Autocross, for example. And we can tell, again, some of the best, times are really close, and yet we're still seeing C4s beat some of the top time. We have C5s being some top time, you know? And yet, you know, there's still all sorts of mixes.
Yes.
And so these cars that are super expensive now, when they do become obtainable, like to say an average person and modified, are they still going to be, you know, are they going to be able to get top time, or are they going to be still
with work?
Yeah.
So-
I mean, none of those cars do it without work, without modifications.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't take a stock one out there and hit top time a day.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a couple factors that are going to happen before you start seeing that, right? One, people are going to have to start building parts for them. I know there are some, but it's going to have to grow more than it has. Two, the car's going to have to come down in value.
Yeah, in order to
people start doing it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. But what is that? What's that mark? Is that 20,000? Is it like...
Probably. I mean, if you take $100,000 car and it gets down to 50, you'll start seeing it.
I think you're right.
The Zeos, no, sorry, not Zeos. I keep saying the C8 base model when it was announced in COVID was supposed to be 60 grand due. I don't know.
I think they were 80.
No, that was with markups and stuff. Like they were supposed to be 60 grand.
They were 80.
You're right.
And they were 80. You know, and they went. I've seen some go higher, 100 and 130. You know, blah blah blah. Okay, they have come down on the used market where they're at 50, 60 now, right? Which is great. You know, where's the bottom market of it? If you're buying literally the performance of a 2000s Ferrari, a 430, even just reaching levels, not at it, but of a 458 Ferrari for like 25 grand. That's like the best deal of the century.
I do think the base C8s, especially the early ones, I think the bottom's going to be about 25.
I don't
Could
know.
go lower.
So the reason I don't know if it will go lower than that. Okay, It is a Corvette, and Corvettes they lose value,
Yes.
except for the rare ones.
The base ones lose value a lot.
The only reason I would be skeptical if it went to that low of a number is because of the mid-engine and the design. I can't really see a car like that going under 30 because there's some cars that are mid-engine that are like alphas and not the NSX.
They'll go that low. It'll just take time.
I think they will too, and a lot of it's because of production numbers.
Yeah.
And there's so many better cars available that they're definitely gonna go down there.
They'll have their next $100,000 car out.
I mean,
by
if
then.
especially if you look at, maybe it's a bad example, but the C6 and C7 base models,
Yeah.
they're dirt cheap.
Well, the C7, I thought those are still like
Not the
70
base.
grand. 50
Not the
grand.
base.
Not a base
What do you
model.
get
model.
though? A C7 base?
35.
Yeah, 30, 35.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, that's still saying a lot though.
it is.
That is, because that
a great
car
car.
is, 10 years old. If you're still at 35, I would really say it'd be tough for the base C8 to be below that. Whatever the last
I'm
generation
not
is,
saying it's
it
going to happen
takes-
next year.
It takes time, right? Like the C5 is, you can get a
40
base
years
model
old.
C5 for 15.
yeah, that's
A
true.
base model C6 is what, 25 right now?
Yeah, 18, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, so give it another generation. That one will go down to 15.
Yep.
This one will go down. 7 will go down to 25. The
Yeah.
8 will go
and
down.
then they'll
to
start coming back up when they're
35,
50
yeah.
years old.
Yeah. And well, it also depends on what. Let's just I guess to conclude this is what Chevy does with it, because if
Yeah.
they go and say electrify it, that's it's going to hold value. If they go and
I
say
disagree.
you think if they make an electric Corvette and only go for electric Corvette from here on out, the C8 would not lose value or would lose value.
No.
Oh, the new or the old ones?
The old ones?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
no.
gas-powered
That's what I'm
ones
saying.
would
Oh,
increase.
yeah, yeah.
So, like-
okay, my
yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is also it depends on if the next model out, if for some reason they go front wheel drive, or sorry, not front wheel drive, front engine rear wheel drive. That was one thing you and me have talked about, Rob.
Yeah.
Was I think personally what Corvette should do for C9, because it's going to be hard to do that platform, is you bring back a look of like a Gen 3 C3 Corvette kind of, and you bring in two models. You bring in a affordable mid-engine one with a different styling, and then you bring back a front engine rear wheel drive convertible. Very similar front end looking, but different design.
A
aspect.
restyled C3.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool as shit.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Because you would then bring back both people who love front engine
Yeah.
and rear engine. You
Yeah.
could bring them affordable. You could have two models. You then can build up those two models and then have the best of best.
Yeah,
And even
that'd
when
be
they
cool.
say,
But would you really want to see Corvette or Chevy come out with a Corvette that had a front and a rear motor?
I think you
model?
would because you can say it's the
And call it a Corvette, though?
Heritage thing.
heritage thing. And Ford, you can
'Cause then
advertise as the
Special
Ford feel.
edition.
Because then you might be getting into where Corvette has two different lines,
Don't
Yeah.
and there's
make-
6 different models of
They've
each
talked
one.
about
Yeah.
doing that.
but you don't make
That has
That's
been a
crazy
thing.
to me.
the thing is that the front engine one's not going to outperform the rear engine one.
No.
So what you do with that one is you make the best of kind of that you can, but you advertise that and you bring it of it's all about the experience.
You think the front engine one won't outperform the rear?
No, there's no way it will.
Well, not if they do. Nah, probably not. Especially if they do a retro, kind of like they did the Camaro. The new Camaros looked like the 67 to 69. They had the styling
bit, yeah,
cues,
yeah.
right? So if they brought out a Corvette that had styling cues of a C3 or an early C5 or something like that, I would stay away from the C4s because they were ugly as shit.
To each their own. But
Yeah, to each
was,
their own,
That
yes.
was a generation. But the
It was.
C3 is more now starting to get more of a classic look.
Exactly.
And I feel like how they would do it is one of the cars, or both, if they made two models of cars, would have to share a front end or rear end. One of those two would have to be the same to make it economically possible to have
Yeah.
that.
Well, I could see
C3,
them.
was that a Stingray?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure that they've. Actually, I don't know. They could probably do something with the Camaro, platform.
Mm-hmm.
Change it enough to put a new body on it or something.
So
I'm sure
Camaro is
figure that
looking
out.
at going mid-motor also.
that would be
That's
weird.
rumored.
I have seen rumors of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't supposed to be as high end as the Corvette, but
I don't know how they would do that with a 2+2 though.
I think
That was the whole thing with. Well, that's the whole thing with the Camaro though. It's a
supposed to have
4-seat car.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it would be interesting. The rendition they put out looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
It did look Camaro-ish, but it kind of had the vibe of the Corvette. And I will say what they did put out or what they showed as being the potential of what it would look like, I thought looked better than the Corvette.
Yeah.
all right. Well, that's all.
Anyway,
Who knows what?
yeah.
All right. Let's. We're doing fine. Let's talk about something you had brought up. Hobbies, kid hobbies.
Bringing up this.
Yeah. Getting kids interested in cars, and from an early age, and what kind of things promotes that kind of thinking, that critical thinking of problem solving, and being able to work on things.
Your hands.
I have some thoughts on this.
So this whole topic and idea came up because going again back to Off-Kai. Going to Off-Kai as a whole different side tangent. I'm known as the Ferrari kid. That's one thing I'm known for. So at this convention, I was handing out Ferrari Hot Wheels, bring people Hot Wheels. That being said, it made me go through my giant collection of Hot Wheels and realize I haven't opened these for a while and seen them for a while, and I was like, how many people are actually going in and seeing these? How many kids are actually playing with them anymore? Getting off their iPads and actually getting physical and stuff.
Yeah, that's a...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you don't see anyone playing with Legos. If anything, Legos are now being hoarded and scalped and collector's items and stuff.
There's that. Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think Legos are still a pretty big deal. They've gotten into the more kit realm, you know, but whatever. I still think that's kind of a big deal for kids and stuff like that. I don't know. My kids are grown and out of that for a long time.
Yeah.
But I would definitely promote that of kids to build. Use your hands. Get off the iPad for a while and go outside and ride a bike.
So I'm of a different generation, as well as I'm not a father, and you guys are. So what kind of things did you guys and especially on different ages of your kids, did you see them either playing with or introduce them to? What got them where it was not only critical thinking and expanding their horizon, but also made it fun and made it interactive with you guys doing stuff with them like that?
Well, we definitely limited computer time, and that was a good thing. We wanted them to be familiar because computer age it's a big deal, right? They're everywhere, and it's important, but at the same time, actually play with erector set kind of things and Legos and anything that had to do with building. And I was big in getting both kids onto bicycles early and learning how to ride motorcycles early. That was a big thing, to be active and outside and do those kind of things. My son would work with me in the garage, and he worked on motorcycles and got that kind of mechanical feel of how things work and see it and touch it and turn wrenches at a really young age and that kind of stuff. So, and now he's a diesel mechanic. I didn't see that coming, but he loves what he does.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. I think it's just really important to expand their horizons and touch all kinds of different things, right? To be able to see how things work, and that promotes critical thinking of being able to look at a machine or an object and understand what is happening. Not that it turns some dials and whistles and chains move and belts and this and that and something happens, but to be able to look at it and go, oh, I see that this spins this over here and this creates this reaction, and kind of understand what's going on just by looking at something. So I don't know. I think kids learn from those interactions at a really young age, and it sticks with them. So I think that's really important to keep them involved
Yeah, so we had a lot of toys for Riley that you could pull apart and stuff like that. The other thing we did, we were lining the top of his ceiling, the where the ceiling meets the wall. We were lining that whole section with Hot Wheels in the package, right?
Yeah, that's cool.
And I thought it was pretty cool. We got most of the way around the room, and one day he goes, "How come I can't pull those down and play with them?" And I fucking ripped them all off the wall and said, "Open any of them you want." And he played with those cars for hours and hours and hours. And I remember doing that shit as a kid, right? Yeah. And then I got to the point where I was tearing everything apart, right? I wanted to know how it worked. And kind of watching him and never telling him, no, you can't do something.
Yeah.
You know,
Experience it.
Experience it, dude. If you want to rip a fucking stereo apart, let's rip a fucking stereo apart. Here's the toolbox. I never told him, no, you can't do something. He wanted to learn how to run a chainsaw. We picked the chainsaw up, fired it up, showed him how to run it. Kid climbs trees for a living now. Loves his drift cars, you know. Yep. I think he's building a BMW drift car right now. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, right? What else did we do? Oh, his uncle bought him one of those mini crotch rockets. And we took it over to the school, set up a bunch of fucking cones, and let him rip around the schoolyard on this 2-stroke, pissing everybody in the neighborhood off.
Of course.
You know, we'd park a truck at the end of the thing, block the parking lot off, and just let him rip, right? And cops never showed up.
That's good.
Yeah, never showed up. I know a couple of the neighborhood people were pissed about it, but they never called anybody.
That's good.
So,
yeah.
What do you think?
It's interesting.
You're a different generation. So
I'm a different generation, but I'm probably one of the last ones to play with on a regular basis, like erect sets. For our audience that's younger that doesn't know, essentially it was like they were old kits that you would get that would be somewhat Lego-fied. They'd be metal pieces with holes and of steel and aluminum, and you would actually put them together with nuts and bolts, and you would create things like, you know, cranes and planes and fortresses,
robots, stuff.
Robots, you know. And I think it's good to get kids, you know, involved with stuff like that. That being said, though, I think the other thing that most of the younger generation is doing is people are going to computers.
Yep.
And that's a given. It's going to be going that way. The one big thing that helps out that a lot of kids are getting early on, in fact, even some schools have it in their curriculum, is Minecraft. And it's because in Minecraft, you're working in a world, you have to realize, okay, if I'm building a tree, I can take a tree, chop it down to wood, use wood, find stone, mix stone, combine the both. That makes a basement level shovel. Now, if I take the stone, melt it down, it becomes iron. I can use that. And if you can change, you know, it thinks of how process goes of what you can do with the environment you got and how to use that. It's not as hands-on, but it is involving that thinking of that level.
Critical thinking skill.
Yeah, which I think is important. And you could see online like these, you know, in the virtual world, people building giant statues or huge machines that require levers and rails and, you know, electricity in game to build this stuff. Heck, the crazy thing I've seen is someone used Minecraft in the virtual world to build these think blocks to a full computer chip thing to build a fully working Game Boy Pokemon game, functionally in the game.
I think you lost everybody on that.
Anyways, regardless, is they built a game in a game from that, and that takes a lot of thinking on that one.
Yeah.
I do think it's important for kids to go and play, like, for example, Hot Wheels was the biggest one. It brings the imagination from whether it's a real car that mommy and daddy own or versus this is the coolest thing. It's supposed to have rocket jets and can jump this way and gets them thinking, like, what they eventually want or do. I mean, heck, a lot of people, how many people we've known that have those tiny model cars and they've held on to them forever and said, this is the car I want to have when I grow up, and do eventually get that, you know?
I might still have mine somewhere.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, though,
probably at my grandma's,
that I don't hear a lot of people finishing, and I want to know your thoughts, is model kits. That's one I never hear kids finishing over. Have you guys ever had that experience?
Not finishing? What do you mean?
I
Like
always
you get a
finish
model
mine,
of like
but-
say like you know a I don't know 69 Firebird or whatever,
Yeah.
and you got to build it and glue it and paint it and go find the paints and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever?
I never painted mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I painted mine and put the stickers on and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
It takes a lot of
basic
time.
though, very basic.
Yeah.
Mostly the stickers I think I put on.
I will say the one thing in terms of project cars, I think that was really helpful, and
know
especially
if
year
Riley
after year doing that, was being involved with the Boy Scouts and doing, you know, the Pinewood Derby.
Mm-hmm.
You know, learning how, okay, I got a block, I'm going to build it, make it look cool.
Yeah.
Well, if I build it, make it look cool, guess what? It's not the fastest thing. Let's build some aerodynamics onto it. How can we change it so it's even faster?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think those are all good things. And, you know, that comes back to that hands-on, you know, that experience of does it work and does it not work and how can we change it? And I do agree, though, the computer stuff is very important, especially now, and that can relate at some level eventually to car stuff. Like if you're going to be a tuner,
Yeah.
you know, or have your car done, you might as well be the guy to do it. So knowing the ins and outs of that is important as well. But
Reading all the codes.
yeah, there's a lot to that. I'm not downplaying the computer stuff, but man, you got to have some hands-on too.
Yeah.
And to be able to troubleshoot, like you got to know how stuff works before you can figure out what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So
researching how to do
critical
things,
thinking thing.
researching how to do things, researching how to find parts, all that stuff. You got to do it on a computer
here's
anymore.
one
Or-
that-
More.
Yeah. Here's one to ask you guys. So when I was growing up, especially in like elementary and middle school and stuff like that, one of the things we would get would be like books of science, and I would replicate like science experiments, learn how magnetism works,
Yeah.
and figure out, you know, how electricity works and go through that and replicate these experiments. Nowadays, paper media doesn't exist. Not as much we can grab a book and go through that.
Right.
Do you think it's important then for kids, instead of grabbing a physical book, reading and seeing that, to say go on YouTube and watch, you know, scientists or hobbyists do this and learn that way? Or do you think that's bad because they're spending too much time on a screen?
Nah, I think. Oh, sorry, that was really loud. I think that's okay. I think YouTube's a fantastic tool. You know, especially if you're using somebody else's experience to learn from. Like, how do I do this? And then you go and physically do it yourself. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's almost better than a book, because you can misinterpret. I mean, maybe that's wrong, because if you misinterpret directions, you're still learning.
Yeah.
Just the hard way, right? But either way, I think as long as you're taking that information to learn something, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're still learning. You know, it's just from somebody instead of a book. That's fine. Like, it's like learning from a teacher. So then you go put that into practical experience and practice it. Like, well, I watched YouTube and now I can do this. I figured it out. You know, somebody showed me, but that's fine. That's how you learn.
I do that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. When there's stuff that doesn't make sense, maybe somebody else has done this. Let's
how
figure it
the
out.
hell do I change that filter?
Yeah, I think honestly YouTube's a great learning tool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it can be dangerous, though. It can get into bad habits of just like, you're just stuck to a screen,
I don't
constantly
think so.
ingesting.
Yeah.
If you say you had a kid that's
That's
on
not-
8 hours a day, and,
That's a problem.
and granted, they are learning, but they're
Maybe.
just there.
Yeah.
Like, there has to be a balance.
Yes, no, I agree. You should be learning to utilize that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And go do something with it instead of just sitting there watching a screen for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be bad. But all right, I don't know. Anything else for now?
Not a lot on that one. My biggest thing was, I was going to add on to that one, was I think it's important that if you did grow up with that, especially back again to Hot Wheels, especially if you have a goal for a project or a goal for overall a car you want to have, sometimes it's good to have small things like that just to keep a physical focus on that.
Okay.
Like if you have a car in hand,
goal.
you
I
can
get it.
see it, you know. And,
Yeah.
I think that's part
Whatever
of the
motivates
secret.
you.
Yeah.
Whatever keeps you motivated. Kids, go buy a piece of junk and work on it.
Yeah.
It might still be a piece of junk, but it'll be yours.
Yeah.
Buy your
Your
own piece of junk.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, the other thing I had as a kid was a
Go-karts.
go-kart.
Go-karts.
I had a go-kart that didn't have a motor.
Yeah.
And
That's a great learning tool.
Yeah. We
For
ended
sure.
up putting that thing together, got it running, didn't have brakes, sold it.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it's smart? So say if a father or mother figure is working so much where they can't be super round, but they are like children want to get into a motorcycle, a go-kart, something that's with wheels, but say can be potentially dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it smart to let a kid do that unsupervised? Say, I don't have time as the parent. I'm working. Figure this out and do it yourself. Or is that something you need to be there with them?
Yes. I am going to say absolutely 100% yes. That's kind of how I grew up. And most people of my generation grew up that way. Like
Doing it yourself?
doing it yourself. You're on your own, The parent, you actually didn't want your parents watching what you were doing because you knew it was dangerous. We lived through it. We may have gotten hurt a bunch or did stupid stuff or crashed a go-kart into somebody's car, but we had a good time doing it. And we
Kids
learned a lot.
learn the most doing dangerous things in a safe way.
Or dangerous things in a not safe way.
Yeah.
But, I would highly promote that. If your kid wants to get into go-karts, get him a go-kart, even if you can't watch what's happening. Line it out for him maybe and say, I'd like you to be safe doing this, so here's what I want to...
Here's a helmet, here's your neck brace, here's your seatbelt.
You get them that, but you as let's say, here's the best example. I am very keen to automotive. I know how to work on cars and all that jazz.
Yeah.
In terms of motorcycles, I've grown up with motorcycles. In terms of wrenching on them, I know how an engine works, but like there's some things I'm still unsure about. Is it best to give them to a kid to be like, that's into motorcycles, here's a motorcycle project, as a parent, I should be taking some investment and learning that myself, even without them, just to have that, or is it best
You
to
can learn with them too.
Yeah. Learn with them if you can, give them a manual and say, this is what we need to do. Study up on that and let's do it. Let's set aside a time on the weekend or, weeknights or something. Let's go through this and indulge it. Yeah.
It's good for your kids to see you as an actual human and not knowing everything also.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Yes.
Yes.
It gives them the idea that they're always going to have to learn.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought...
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
There's two sides to that, but because you always think that your parents, until you're a teenager, your parents know stuff.
Yeah.
They know, you go to them because they know all the stuff, right?
Yeah.
Until you're a teenager, and then you're like, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
But it's not, that's more of a rebellious thing. But yeah, I think learning with your kids and be like, hey, tell them, I don't know how to do that. Let's figure it out. That gives them an idea that, you don't know how to do that, but here's how we figure it out. Here's how we learn how to do it. And so they
Helps
take
with
that into their next project. They're like, this is how we learn. This is how we figure out how to do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Helps with the
whether
critical
it's
thinking.
YouTube or a manual or just take it apart and pay attention to what you're doing. It's like, here's the broken part. Well, let's get a new one of those and put it all back together. So I think there's a lot of learning to be done there. But shoot, if the kid wants to take it apart on his own, do it.
Do it.
I did all kinds of that.
Oh, yeah.
I took so much stuff apart and put it back together.
I took a lot of things apart that didn't go back together, too.
Sure,
Well,
that's going to happen.
And that was one thing I was...
Don't get mad at your kid for doing that.
Oh, no.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask is there ever a point where you should be like, no? Like, for example, they take the refrigerator apart.
Well,
They take apart the
if
washing
it's an
machine.
old refrigerator that's in the garage that's unplugged,
If
fine.
they're taking
But it's not. I'd say it's plugged in, it's being used.
If the one in the house
That's a
is
problem.
being... That's a problem. If it's the radio or,
it's the big screen
Boom
you're
box.
using.
Let's be realistic.
if it's the boom box that they've had in their room for 5 years and they haven't turned it on and all of a sudden they want to know how it works,
Yeah.
fine.
Let's say it's the brand new Xbox, though, and they thought they can upgrade something and actually messed up. Like, what I'm saying is...
That's a
Sounds like you're gonna-
conversation.
Is
That's
there-
a conversation you're going to have with your kids.
Or like they're working... Here's a better one. They see mom and dad's car out front. It's a Honda, and they just
Why
saw...
do you go to the extremes?
Well, it's not.
It is.
No, it is.
It absolutely is. Yes, it is.
How often...
People don't do that.
How often is a 5 or 7 year old going to go out in front with a Honda?
People don't do that.
I mean,
Even kids don't do that. If you did that, that's you. That's
Yeah.
a you problem.
yeah.
Okay.
I tore things apart. They were my things.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
Yeah. Anyways, I guess the biggest thing I was saying is like if an extreme, let's say an extreme case where they do want to work.
That's a conversation they're going to have with their kid.
And that, okay, so that is something and be like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
If you want things to tear apart,
yeah.
if
You set those boundaries beforehand.
set the
I
boundary
would agree with
Yeah.
that.
and take them to fucking Goodwill and buy some shit to take apart.
There you go. Yeah.
No harm, no foul.
Yeah, there's ways to scratch that itch, right? Figure it out. But I do think, like, if your kid's interested at all, promote that for
Yeah.
sure. Don't tell them no.
Yeah.
Let's work with it. Let's figure it out, because that's building good brain characteristics, right? That critical thinking. It's important stuff to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, kids. That's it for this one. Thanks for listening to show 60.
Woo!
Woo! Let's see. Get a hold of us on Messenger or email untitledcarproject@gmail.com.
Hit us on our Facebook and our Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram, Untitled Car Project. It's all out there.
Yes.
You can reach out if you like. We do have some merch for sale. I don't think I've posted that recently, so I'll try to remember to do that. I've been really slacking.
And then lastly, if you or anyone else who know that is in the automotive industry or seem like they have a good story or would like to be on the show and just join us and tell about your project.
Yeah, we haven't had a guest in a little bit. I've got a couple of people interested, so we'll try to hook that up. And, we'll have another good show next week.
I don't know about you guys, but I really want to talk to somebody that has built a motorcycle.
That guy has.
You're talking to me.
Yeah.
Well, not just two strokes. I want to talk to somebody that has built like a Harley or some
Tomahawk.
custom street bike. Yeah, that would work.
I did that.
There you go.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, well,
Maybe the next episode.
maybe so. All right. Anybody got anything else?
Not at the moment.
I have lots of things, but we'll save them for the next.
Maybe later. All right, cool. Thanks, everybody. Thanks
right.
for listening.